Happy Comic-Con week, everybody. Hi, Richard.
Hey, John, man, it snuck up on us, didn't it?
It's here. Can you believe it? It is Comic-Con week. We've got a lot to talk about with that. We've got, oh gosh, another grading company entering the ring. We're late. We know because we don't go on every day, but you guys know we're going to talk about it. We've got underrated books of the week. We've got the old fart rule heading back to 1984. We've got viewer mail, and we've got this, the hot book of the week. Richard, have you heard of this book?
I had not heard about it until I saw the graders notes or the graders notes.
Boy, you're thinking about that new company already.
Yeah, I am until I saw the show notes. I took an opportunity to read it.
Oh, you did?
Yes, I did. So the book is called Grommets. It's two best friend outcasts navigate the Sacramento suburbs of 1984, where they find a home in skateboard culture and punk rock. It's pretty cool. If you were born in the era that this is pertinent, it's a pretty good read. It sounds,
yeah,
I'm
it
sorry.
sounds custom made for us and a lot of our audience.
Yeah, it sure does. 114% increase in copies sold this week versus previous week. Raw copies of cover A are selling for $3 to $6 on eBay. There's lots of variant covers for it. I saw a number of them. If I, John, you and I grew up in the Midwest, so I was not into skateboard. Skateboarding wasn't a thing when I was this age. Was it for you?
It was for us at Elyria West High School in 1985, 1986. I could actually do, I think I can still do an ollie. I think I can actually do a few tricks still. I don't want to break an ankle, but
Well, this was back in the day, before skateboarding became the professional sport that it is now. But it's amazing. If you read the comic, it's all about these two kids, and it's all about skateboard culture and Southern California culture. I don't remember the word queef being passed around as often as it was in this book back in the day. But there it goes. But no, it's good. I think it was fun. I think it's a good start to a series that's more human nature and story about relationship than it is about superheroes.
I haven't picked it up yet. It is on my list. I do have issues 1 and 2 to read. So I just thought it was interesting that it just seems to really speak to us, almost like an 11 Rockets sense, but
Yeah.
a little twist. We'll see how it goes. We'll see what the reaction to this is when we go to Comic-Con. Before I go any further with stuff I read this week, let's get to that news first. Let me adjust my headphones. Okay, look, it was announced. You guys probably know. You guys are plugged in. PSA, the card grading company, they announced in 2025 they're going to grade comic books and magazines. Here is the picture that they released. Richard, it's deja vu all over again. Do I get to complain about awful labels and lack of graphic design for another company now?
Well, this is the label design they use on their cards.
I don't care.
Well, the thing is, it works better on a smaller format, like a cards, which is a quarter the size of this comic. On when you blow it up to fit a comic book, it just looks cheap. You're right. Just like every other one of these grading companies, they need to spend a few $1,000s and get a nice graphic designer that can give them a better brand than what we're seeing here.
I mean, CBCS finally did it. I like those labels. Yeah, they feel like they trap themselves in replicating what they do for cards.
Mhm.
At the same time, okay, every other grading company for comic books does it this way. We must do it this way too. Why? What possible traction are they going to get in the market by doing it the same way? People want innovation. They want innovation. They want something different. I think we're going the wrong way, which is a weird way of me saying, I think this is just going to turn more people off to grading. I'm turned off. Maybe I'm the exception. You guys tell me in the comments. I'm not sending anything to get slabbed anymore. I'm 100% raw now for a while.
Yeah, you're right. This dilutes the whole grading environment, and what happens to GPA? Does GPA right now tracks CGC, and that's it. So this means that these PSA slabs are not going to be a part of the census, the grading.
CBCS isn't. It's time for someone to come up with, Richard, you're a programmer. Come on, you know how to do this stuff. Come up with a tracking system that tracks slabs, period.
Yeah, it's definitely time. I don't know. And how is PSA going to slot in the desirability? And you mentioned that there's very little to differentiate it above and beyond CGC or CBCS. Does that mean it just becomes the third choice, just ahead of PCX and never really gains traction? Or are they going to find some way to differentiate themselves? And because they're the new kid on the block, they have something to prove, and the market needs to recognize them. I just don't see anything that's really calling it out, unless you're already a PCA. You own a lot of PCA cards and you want to have slabs for your comics that match.
PSA.
Sorry, PSA. Sorry.
That's all right. Everybody in the comments will be like, Richard said PCA. I like the picture here. I'm going to bring it up again. An Incredible Hulk 181 in a 9.4. Who is going to send an Incredible Hulk 9.4 to PSA to be graded?
No one, hopefully, for at least for the short term. Like I said, they have to prove themselves as excuse me, as being as valuable at least as CGC to win that person who's looking to grade, especially a Hulk 181 or any of the high end books. It's getting your books graded by an unknown is the same thing as getting your books graded by someone like PCX. I hate to say
PGX.
PGX. I am just on a roll here.
Richard, have some coffee here. What it's let me backtrack on a little bit here. What I'm saying, not backtrack, but clarify what I'm saying here. Competition is great. Force everybody, goose everybody. We've seen it happen when CBCS really stood their ground. We saw CGC make some changes that were good. Maybe this will help as well. Call me crazy. I'm seeing it from hosting live sales. I'm seeing it from the DMs. You all hit me up the minute this was announced. People are really having a negative reaction, not to this news in particular, but to getting their books slabbed. It's almost like raw rules now. Raw rules the roost. Say that 3 times fast. So I'm kind of done slabbing again. I just got back into it. Now I'm like, what's the point? I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you got to remember, slabbing is relatively a new phenomenon, right? So it's not like it's been around since the beginning of collecting comics.
Mm-hmm.
So raws, I think, are a safe way of continuing. You may not get the top dollar if you're looking to sell, but I think you have a wider audience than you do for slabs nowadays.
All right. The real question everybody's asking is, how long until Steve Borak goes to work for PSA? He started at CGC. He moved to CBCS. Now here's PSA. It's almost like the music industry. There's like 3 places to work, Warner, Universal, or Sony. All right, let's pause on this. We keep saying we don't want to talk about slabs and CGC anymore, and then something happens every week to keep it in the news cycle where you just kind of have to talk about it, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about Comic-Con. Maybe we'll hear some more this week, but you guys wanted it. Here you go. The Bronze and Modern Gods San Diego Comic-Con get-together will be this coming Friday night at 8 p.m. in the hotel bar at the Wyndham Bay San Diego Bayside. Right? Now, the Wyndham San Diego Bayside. Let me say that again. The Wyndham San Diego Bayside. It's on North Harbor Drive. It's north of the convention center, about 1.3 miles. You can actually technically walk there. It'll take you about 20 minutes. Or you can grab the Comic-Con shuttle, which goes between that hotel and the convention center. We all want to see you at the bar Friday night, 8 p.m. If you want, why don't you DM us at Bronze and Modern Gods on Instagram so we can get a bit of a head count. And we will see you at the Wyndham San Diego Bayside Friday night at 8 p.m. How's that?
That's great. Great. Looking forward to seeing everybody.
All right. Let's change to show and tell. Fingers.
Mm.
Come see us at the hotel and mock us in person for doing that fingers thing.
Oh, no Rotten Tomatoes, please. No throwing fruit at us, vegetables.
Please keep them fresh. All right. Before we go into show and tell, I want to do a little catch up on some house cleaning things. Okay. I kept saying I'm going to read X-Men #1, right? The new relaunch. I read it. Okay.
What do you
halfsies?
really? Okay, I haven't read it.
Not bad. It's not great. It's a lot of setup. It's a lot of, it's a lot of that good old fashioned Jim Shooter exposition as dialogue. Like, hello, name of fellow mutant whose powers include X, Y, and Z. I mean, it was a little like a flashback. The way I read it, it was like, whoa, you guys know you're allowed to use captions, okay? And thought balloons. The thought balloons apparently are verboten. I still don't understand that. Comics is a great medium where you have all these things available to you. You can't do thought balloons on TV or movies, but you can do them in comics. It gives you such insight and extra characterization. And why don't you please bring back thought balloons, please, everybody? Interesting how many characters from Grant Morrison's run were in this, which
that was I was going to ask, are there classic X-Men as a part of this, or is it some of the newer?
I'm not spoiling it by telling you each title has a different lane. Okay. So X-Men, adjectiveless X-Men, led by Cyclops, who for some reason is being drawn like he's an 18-year-old kid. I don't know why. Fine. Ryan Stegman has this manga influence thing going on. This is the Strike Force team, okay, where they are up in Alaska. They are not really concerned with integrating with the human race again. They're concerned about saving mutants that are in trouble around the globe, okay? And they're led by Magneto, who for some reason is referred to as Max throughout the book. Don't try to explain it to me in the book or anything, guys. It's friendly to new readers, except for all the crap that isn't.
Okay.
So that's the focus of this book. There's a couple other books where, there's a team led by the Angel that are going to be more integrated in with humans and society. So it didn't make me go, gosh, I can't wait to issue 2. But it didn't make me go, oh, I can't read this. It makes no sense. So that's my honest opinion.
Yeah, I'll read it. X-Men has been so dark. I'm ready for something that's a little less nihilistic, let's say. So hopefully it's going to be something that's better.
I would give it that. I would say it's not as dark as it could have been. There's a reference to one of the mutants on the team. Not really a spoiler, but Quentin Quire is back from the Grant Morrison run. And Cyclops makes a reference. Oh, you've died the most of all the X-Men. So what are the stakes? There's like 0 stakes now, right?
The resurrection machine that was at Krakow is gone. So I think now there's consequences again for people dying.
Well, then why reference? Okay, this is where an editor comes in, Mr. Brevoort. Why even make the reference to Quentin Quire being resurrected over and over again? I'm a new reader. I don't know that. I don't care. You're catering to people who have been reading the title, correct? The number is so infinitesimally low compared to where it should be. Why do you care? Why do you care? You've made it. You're rebooting this for the express reason of getting new readers. So don't make it difficult for them. There's like 4 text pages and an AR code to bring you up to speed. That's all I'm saying.
Wow, you're right. This is yet another reboot. This is like Batman movies. They keep rebooting it over and over again. It's time to actually start from scratch, and let's have an unencumbered reboot that you don't have to have a Wikipedia page to be able to read the backstory.
Well, the reason why I'm frustrated is because this was it. You you didn't need that stuff. It was readable without those little Easter eggs to the 40,000 people who are possibly still buying it from the month before. Who cares about that 40,000 people? I'm sorry. It wasn't enough to sustain it the way it was going. I honestly don't know what the number is. I'm just saying 40,000 because I can't imagine what's the best selling comic book moving these days.
That's a good question.
Is it 100K? If it's 100K, I'm shocked.
I would be surprised if it's that big. I really would.
So I know I'm focusing on all the negatives because that's what stuck with me the most, are all the negatives. Nothing made me go, wow, this is good. I'm back. I'm going to read X-Men again. It didn't do that. So I haven't given up on the other titles. I've got Phoenix #1 here. I'm going to buy the other #1s and give you my unvarnished truth in a new segment we call John's Unvarnished Truth. All right, what's your first show and tell?
Okay, this is a weird one. Back in the 90s, I was really into Magic the Gathering card game. Friend of mine, pardon?
I can confirm.
Yes. Friend of mine owned a game shop called V Keep back in the day, and he started a magazine called Conjure Magazine. I don't know if you ever read this magazine.
What was his name? Do you remember his name?
Yes, James Grasso.
Jim Grasso, my arch enemy, my nemesis.
Yeah, you were in Illyria, and he was in Lorraine.
Yeah, we had competing stores, and I'm joking when I say that Jim was actually a really cool guy. And looking back, I truly respect his hustle. That guy was in it to win it. I mean, he started his own friggin' magazine.
Yes, and he's still around. He runs Recess Games, which is a game store in here in Cleveland area. The reason I bought this out is because I wrote an article for. It says Richard Brown presents deck design, and I talk about card decks. In this case, this is a Jin deck, which was actually really nasty. The thing is, I look at the cards that were used to make this deck. 3 Jazam Jins, which are probably $3,000 cards a piece. Then you go down to the artifacts. There's Mox pearls and rubies and a Black Lotus. And so if you were to build this deck today, it would probably be a $50,000 deck. So I count myself lucky. These are the cards I was playing with back in the day. I was playing with these. They were not in plastic cases. They were in sleeves because I was shuffling them and playing with them. So I count myself
worth it.
Pardon?
Was the good time worth it?
It's never going to be duplicated because there's never going to be people playing with these cards to that level again because they're just so valuable. So I just brought this out because Carrie, my wife, she keeps track of everything. So we were going through some of her storage, and this came up, and I said, "Oh wow, this is really cool." I just wanted to share that article in here. It's amazing how valuable these things are nowadays.
40 years almost of knowing this man, and this is the first I've learned of Richard being published in Conjure magazine. I had no idea.
No,
that's super cool. That is really, really freaking cool. We might as well just stop show and tell right now because there's no way I'm going to top that unless I bring up Steamboat Willie sexually assaulting the Savage Dragon's wife in the latest issue of Savage Dragon.
Oh, you showed me that. That is horrifying.
I can't show it on the podcast, but I did send a picture of the offending panel to Richard and Evan and our friend Forrest, and everybody had the same aghast reaction.
And this is only because Steamboat Willie version of Mickey Mouse is in public domain. So technically Disney cannot sue by use of the character.
I love Eric Larson and I love the art and I love Savage Dragon. I don't know what the point is. I mean, it's not funny enough to be like, ha ha. I don't get what he's going for here. I just don't get it. What is it, a statement on Disney? Is it a statement on Hollywood? In the letters page, he says it's a statement on entitled celebrities who think they can do whatever they want. Read into
Mm.
that however you will. It just doesn't come off like that though. The execution is lacking.
Is it Dave Sim end of Cerebus bad or?
It's almost like I'm going to make it a point to attack misogyny but I'm really going to titillate you while I'm doing it. You know, it's very cake and eat it too.
Mm.
Uh, at least that's how I looked at it. Hey, anybody out there among the other 2,000 people who read it besides me, tell me who's sticking with it. We are entering, I'm afraid, we have been in for a while, the Dave Sim era of the Savage Dragon. Now,
So-
it was pornography, borderline pornography before, and he pulled it back quite a bit to be more superhero antics. Now here we are again. So I don't know what's going on, but I had to bring it up and talk about it. What is your next piece of viewer mail? Sorry, show and tell. I'm so rattled by that issue.
You are completely rattled.
I am.
Here we go. This is um, one of my CBCS books. This is Captain America number 25. This is the first appearance of Sam as Cap.
A hot book again, thanks to the
Yes,
trailer.
hot book, yes. And this is a beautiful Adam Hughes cover for this book. I forget, is this a ratio or is this?
I've never seen that cover before. I have the Sam Wilson, Alex Ross one and the Cap Alex Ross one, I think.
Yeah, it's beautiful, beautiful. Cap bursting out of the ice there.
Doesn't make any sense though.
Yeah, well, it's all about presentation.
Cap didn't burst out of the ice. Cap was freed from the ice by the Submariner. I'm sorry, go ahead. I was acting like a nerd.
Acting like. Anyway, this is just exactly. This is like you said, the book is raising in value again. You could see the horrible label. The new labels for CBCS are so much better than these older labels.
Yeah, it's interesting that that book has a roller coaster. It went way up when they announced he was the new Captain America. Then all the troubles that production suffered and the reshoots, it went down, and now it's back up again. We'll get you. So we'll get you some vibes this week at Comic-Con. Not everything is bad. I know I'm super grouchy today. I don't mean to be. How can I when I go through nostalgia like this? Comic Reader 176 with a Steve Ditko Machine Man cover.
Yeah.
This is a rejected cover for Machine Man number 10, the revival, drawn by Steve Ditko. They went with a more symbolic cover. I can kind of see why. The focus is really on the plane as opposed to Machine Man, the way this is laid out. Who had the guts? I guess it was Marv Wolfman who was editing it. Who had the guts to tell Steve Ditko, hey, that cover's not good enough. Go back and draw it.
I'm sure he said it by an intern.
I don't know. He lived in Manhattan. He would drop books off at the office. So many stories of Steve Ditko coming in and hanging out. He wasn't a recluse. I mean, I think that's what people mistakenly think about Steve Ditko, is that he sat in his office alone and didn't talk to people. No, he was a sociable guy. He just was very principled.
Mm-hmm.
Were those principles sane? That's the question. All right. What is your last piece of show and tell?
My last one is a fun book. I've always liked this book. This is All New Wolverine number 1. J. Scott Campbell cover. You've got
X-23?
X-23, right. On the cover. I was actually trying to think of her other name.
PCX?
But it's a beautiful cover. She's got her claws out, and it says All New Wolverine for those listening on the podcast. And it's just, it's just classic J. Scott Campbell. It's just a beautiful cover if you're into his work. And you got a picture of her here on the back as well.
Now, is that a Midtown exclusive or was that a J. Scott Campbell exclusive? I see a
This was
bug,
a cargo hold.
a cargo
It's,
hold. Oh,
yeah,
must,
exclusive. I've never heard of cargo hold, to be
must have
honest.
been one of those boxes, where you got random stuff. And yeah, uh, those days. Mystery box. Should we have a Bronze and Modern Gods mystery box that we send out with exclusives? You know what? You don't have to buy a mystery box from us to support us. You can just become a member here on YouTube. Transition segue. $2.99 a month, less than a coffee and or a Starbucks or beer. You get exclusive live member only streams, especially this week from Comic-Con. Richard and I will both be streaming live from the comic book heaven of Comic-Con on the floor as we shop. You get extra show and tell episodes on Wednesday. You get shout outs like this in future videos as you see your names go by. And in fact, all these people here, we are very thankful for each one of them. And we will be in Comic-Con this week. Hope to see people at the meetup on Friday and then Neo Comic-Con in Northeast Ohio the weekend after. We are busy, busy boys, are we not?
Oh, yes.
You want to join? Click join right here on YouTube next to subscribe. If you're on the podcast, come over to YouTube and hit that way as we head to our favorite segment, yours and mine, Viewer Mail.
You've got mail.
My first piece of Viewer Mail comes to us from our member, one of our members, speaking of members, James Reeves, who last week sent us a picture of Joe Simon's tombstone. And I made a comment like, why didn't they mention that he co-created a Captain America? I mean, if there's anything that's literally going to be on your tombstone, it should be that. James has some insight for us. Missed this episode due to travel, but Joe Simon is interred at a U.S. National Cemetery. Generally, any information not directly relevant to the deceased service is left off the grave marker. So that's why.
Okay. That makes sense. There's an amount of space, so that makes sense.
As a veteran, do not bury me in a national cemetery. I want my tombstone to say, John, co-host, Bronze and Modern
Gods. I'll make sure we honor your wishes.
Seriously, throw me in the fire and do something with my ashes. Don't spend that money. All right, enough death talk. This is a very up show, isn't it? What's your first piece?
My first piece is from a friend of the show, Charlie Dog, here on YouTube. And Charlie Dog says, there are Marvel movies now? Who'da thunk it? I expect that Red Hug's first appearance will be hot for just as long as the movie is around. Then it will fall back to regular pricing like so many other hot books before. Richard, if a guy stands in the sun, will that Ghost Rider comic, this is the one that has the glow-in-the-dark ink on the cover, if the guy stands in the sun with a Ghost Rider comic, then rushes to the bathroom and closes the door, and mom in the kitchen hears gasps of wonder, will she yell, I hope you're not doing anything dirty in there? Okay, when I read this, I heard it with an Australian accent, which made me laugh. Those that don't know, Charlie Dog is one of our friends from Down Under. Giant Size Avengers #1, first appearance of Miss America since 1948. Not much of a return, however. She dies in the story.
Wow. During childbirth, she gives birth to Nuclo.
Oh, that's dark. Thanks for highlighting Marvel's Giant Size books. Some great stories and some very important to certain titles' continuity, but often neglected by modern fans.
Agreed.
Awesome. Thanks, Charlie. Thanks for making me laugh when I read the quote. Appreciate it.
All right. My next piece of viewer mail comes to our email at bronzeandmoderngods@gmail.com from a new writer to viewer mail, Sobo. Dear Bronze and Modern Gods, comic books are often described as a way for readers to reconnect with their childhood. But are there any characters or series that you've grown more attached to as you mature? As an example, I wasn't much of a Captain America fan as a kid, teenager, young adult. After all, I'm 44 and grew up during the prime X-Men era. No, you didn't, believe me.
You've done 10 years off.
Yeah. In recent years, I've slowly pecked away at the Mike Zett and Ron Lim runs, mostly via dollar bins because I enjoy their art. Per John's suggestion, I did read JMS's initial arc on Cap and quite enjoyed the back to basics approach. Too bad it didn't last, right, Osobo? Today, I often find myself longing for the character's idealism instead of dealing with the hellscape that is modern American politics. Signed, Sobo. P.S. Cap 286 is an all-time great cover that deserves more love and recognition. I knew exactly what that cover was going to be the minute I saw Cap 286. I knew it was going to be that Deathlock cover. Have you ever seen that cover?
Yeah, I have. Yeah,
That is a great cover.
it
You're
is.
right.
It's a great cover.
What have I grown to like that I didn't like as a kid, or that I've liked more than when I was a kid? I would have to say I'm really more into, well, gosh, the stuff I liked as a kid, I like now. Love and Rockets, I guess. I know we keep talking about it. It seems like it's on a perpetual loop on this podcast. The drinking game, take a shot. I have grown more fond of things like the Frank Robbins run of Captain America, Frank Robbins on Invaders. Couldn't stand it when I was a kid, yet I was strangely drawn to it.
Mm.
Uh, Obviously, Eternals. I bought Eternals as a kid. I didn't really get it and understand it. I read it now. The first 10 issues of Eternals are amazing before editorial starts mucking around with Jack. So stuff like that I like. I think kind of stuff that's the opposite, things I liked as a kid that don't stand up now. Some of JMD Matthias's run on Captain America I do not like now that I liked when I was reading it. So really good question, Sobo. Richard, what about you?
I think it is a very good question. I guess the types of stories I read are different now. I used to like the huge epic arcs that would span not only a particular title, but there'd be crossovers to other titles, and I used to love that engagement that it would give because you're a part of this big story. Nowadays, though, I prefer the short, quirky stories
Mhm.
like Little Bird from a couple years ago, or 8 Million Genies. Things that are more bite-sized, 6, 8 issues long, maybe 12 issues, and it wraps up. I like those kinds of things. Maybe it's because I have a different appetite than I did when I was younger to reading. But yeah, I prefer the shorter runs to than the longer ones.
All right, there you go. Good question. Thanks for writing in. What is your next piece of Hero Mail?
My next piece is from our bronze and modern gods at gmail.com email, for stringer72. And we're talking about, I was talking about holders for comics as alternatives to sending your book in and getting it slabbed. And there's these magnetic holders, what I was referring to. And he goes into detail on these. Hi guys, thanks for the info about magnetic comic holders. Perfect for my rotating wall display. Each are easy to use, and I'm confident in their protection. Attaches my adventure comics featuring the Spectre display. Keep up
Wow.
the great content, and thanks for being the one comic book show my wife actually likes a lot.
Yeah.
Hi, Four Stinger's wife. How are you? And here he
Please,
has. I'm
please don't
sorry.
show her Savage Dragon.
Here he's set a picture of his wall where he's got these beautiful, oh my goodness, adventure comic covers, and they're raw books, and these magnetic holders. If you look at the top, there's a little round magnets that hold the case closed at the top, and there's a slot there where you can, as you can see, he's hanging them by those slots. Put a nail in the wall, and you can hang them by those. They're very secure. Those magnets are very, very strong magnets. They don't offer any kind of water protection, but neither do CGC slabs. It's just a matter of protecting it. I don't believe they're UV sensitive either, but be honest with you, I never was a feature that I was looking for in CGC slabs either. And they're relatively inexpensive. I think you can buy one of these for $15-20. I think it's about that price, and it's reusable. So if in the future he wants to feature Marvel comics on this wall, he can pull out these adventure comics and slap in some classic X-Men, and it's easy to do. So thank you very much for highlighting these.
So many things about this picture I love. First of all, those great Spectre covers by Jim Aparo. Four Stringer, I'm guessing from your name and from the bass guitar hanging on your wall next to the books that you play the bass. That's pretty cool. And Richard, look below. See the Invaders Annual #1 with
I
the
do
shot.
see that. Yep, and the little cover there. Yeah, that's perfect.
Awesome. My last piece of viewer mail comes to our Gmail address at bronzeandmoderngods@gmail.com from our buddy Shrews Clues. Hey, folks. Fanzine style books were all the rage when we were kids, but I don't remember this one. I was lucky enough to have a friend mail it to me after they found it in a thrift store this past week. It's called Cosmic Sorcery from 1977,
Wow.
Chien Publishing, and focuses on art from the sword and sorcery genre. Get this, it has art from folks like Neil Adams, Howard Chaykin, Jeff Jones, Gil Kane, Dave Simons, Rich Buckler, and George Perez.
Mhm.
There appears to be only 3 on the CGC census and only a few raws online for sale, but zero info about the publisher or how this book came to be. It's just super fun, and I wanted to share it. Shrews. Look at that cover, Richard.
Yeah, there's so much to unpack on that cover.
Yeah,
For those on the podcast, it's called a cat fight going on. Um,
like
between
several Red Sonias having a fight.
Yes, yes, and yeah. So
Okay.
interesting cover. Yeah, I've never seen this before either. There's so many fanzines that were produced in that time period. I wonder if if anyone is familiar with this or has any backstory, please let us know. I'm sure Shrews Clues would appreciate knowing too. But this looks like something that you need to take to someone who's an expert on fanzines because they probably have the dirt on it.
Very crazy that pros would take their time to do work for fanzines back then. That's what's interesting. Uh, I wonder what the motivation was. They got paid in some way, or oh well. What is your final piece of viewer mail?
My finest piece is from our friend David, still only 35 cents. Great show, as always, team. On Richard's Secret Wars #1, second print, if you open it, in addition to the black Spidey logo on the cover, we're talking about how to identify the second print. You may find that Galactus is correctly printed rather than the blue error in the first print. I've got snagged a picture of that blue error that he's talking about. For the first print, there was a large number of the books were missing. I believe it's the one of the plates. So instead of being green, Galactus is a beautiful blue, that you can see here in this print. So this particular picture. So this is called the error print for this for Secret Wars #1. You can find there are copies that do have the correct plates and it actually prints correctly. So there really has never been any value assigned to this error variant. I think it's not rare enough to really have any kind of value, but it's a neat curiosity. So yeah, thanks David for calling that out. The I think it's a great book. Like I said, when we were talking about it. There is first print, there is the second print, which has that Spidey in the box, and there is also a Canadian variant, which is probably the smallest one I would in terms of print run. I would surmise, and so if you're looking at collecting Secret Wars #1, you got a range to pick up.
Don't forget the newsstand or U.S. newsstand. Yeah, there's that as well.
That's true.
1984, Secret Wars. Wow, 40 years ago. Yes, it is the old fire rule. Oh, you almost planned that, didn't you? Old
I
fire.
almost.
We go back to 1984, 40 years ago, and talk about the books that shaped our lives and our collecting. And this is a strange one, Ghost Manor #77. Yes, we're back on Charlton Comics, the last gasps of Charlton. This was the last issue of this long-running horror anthology, but you wouldn't know it. It was a horror title with this Dick Giordano cover, which was reprinted from 1958's Outer Space #20. Yeah, is that a space ghost? Wink, wink. Space ghost. It's a science fiction themed issue, strangely enough. Why would they throw science fiction in a book called Ghost Manor? Maybe this is why Charlton went out of business, people. Inside, stories from Steve Ditko, Pat Boyette, Jim Aparo, all reprinted from Space War and Space Adventures from the 50s and 60s. Kind of a weird way for this title to go out. If you're looking for it, a raw fine copy sold on eBay recently for $3.25. Richard, I need you to stop me from collecting Charlton last issues. I don't have the room. Stop me.
I will hold you back, definitely.
Because what a cool thing to collect, last issues from Charlton.
Mm-hmm. This cover is awesome because I love that whole 50 sci-fi kitsch. I think it's amazing, and to see a book that has that style so late in its print run, I think is pretty cool.
Look at that friendly alien. Are we supposed to be scared? He's smiling. He's saying, "Hey, what's up, Earthling?"
Or he could be saying, "Oh, look, dinner."
Not delicious dinner. All right, underrated books of the week. Richard, take it away.
Yeah, this week I picked Gen 13, number 0. This is an ash can from Image Comics back in 1994. This is a 32-page black and white promotional comic for the series. These ash cans are books that were sent out in advance to the actual series to generate interest from the comic book stores for a particular title. The story is about a group of genetically altered superhero teens, of course, because that is just the whole genre. Jim Lee and J. Scott Campbell own this property. They created the characters, and it takes place in Jim Lee's Wildstorm universe. It's part of the Image universe. This is a creator owned. This is part of Image, so the whole point of Image Comics where creators own their property, and so this was an exciting opportunity for both J. Scott and Jim Lee to own the comic that they were writing. I'm worried about in terms of any kind of properties to come from this, in terms of TV shows, what have you. Are the rights pretty messed up with this? It just seems to me that because you've got Jim Lee, you've got J. Scott Campbell, and later DC got itself involved and printed the series. So I'm really wondering about that. Um, J. Scott did the interiors, not only covers, he did the interiors for the first 20 issues of this series. So if you want to see J. Scott Campbell draw panels, this is a great way of doing it. You can pick up a copy of the first 20 issues, usually pretty reasonably priced. You get an opportunity to see J. Scott actually doing grunt work and working on the interior of a book. This book is semi-rare. There's only 23 copies on the census right now. But the CGC 9.8 last sold in April for $250, so it's not out of the range of a lot of collectors. So if you like J. Scott Campbell and you like to see his work, this is a great title to pick up.
Very cool. All right, my underrated book this week is Fast Willie Jackson, number 1 from Fitzgerald Publications way back in 1976. This is the first landmark issue of this series, which is basically, hey, Archie comics for African-American kids, right?
Pretty much.
Same publisher also put out those Golden Legacy comics. You ever see those, Richard, from the 70s? They focus on figures and Black history.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Mhm.
Same publisher. This lasted 7 issues for a non-Marvel, non-DC, non-Charlton, not even Atlas comics from the 70s to make it to the newsstands and last a year and some change. It's a pretty significant feat. This, like I said, lasted 7 issues. The most recent high-grade sale was for a CGC 9.6, which sold for $600 in June. Raw copies of Fast Willie Jackson number 1 sell for $75 to $175 on eBay, depending on how rough it is. And believe it or not, just to bring everything full circle, these characters were eventually folded into the cast of, wait for it, Eric Larson's Savage Dragon. I guess
That's full of life.
I guess he thought they were public domain at that point and brought them in as they're literal characters in the supporting cast
Wow.
of Savage Dragon. Have you ever tried to put together a run of Fast Willie Jackson?
No, I've been familiar with it. I've never come across. I would love to find all issues in a run. Might be a little pricey because it is kind of hard to find. I just love the fact that it's basically the whole concept of Archie comics was basically just transported into
Yeah.
African Americans, and it worked well enough to continue for a year, like you said. Yeah, I'm looking for a copy of number one to start off, and maybe that will trigger my OCD to get the rest of the copies. But I haven't come across that copy. $600, I think, is a little pricey for me. But who knows? I may come across something that's more reasonable.
Just from trying to get a run myself and looking around and talking to people, issue 4, believe it or not, is the toughest to
Really,
find, just in my experience. I love it's so 1976. Look at this cover.
look at
Uh,
the bell bottoms and the platform shoes. Yeah, that's hilarious.
it looks like a still from Good Times. And,
It does.
and in the back, the guy in the red with the bucket cap looks like he stepped right out of Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids. It's hitting all the bells and whistles for me. Obscure comic, funny, kitschy. I'm in. Still have not been able to complete a run of Fast Willie Jackson. So there it is. All right. A reminder. We will be in San Diego at San Diego Comic-Con this week. If you want to see us for our meetup Friday evening at 8 p.m. at the Wyndham San Diego Bayside. Once again, Friday, 8 p.m., the Wyndham San Diego Bayside. Please DM us at Bronze and Modern Gods on Instagram. Let us know if you're coming, and we will catch you all this week.
Yep. Everybody, stay safe. Find us in San Diego.